You poison your potential with constant distraction every time you run from loneliness. The emptiness you avoid contains more spiritual power than any practice, ritual, or teaching you could ever pursue. Look at history. Every genuine awakening followed periods of isolation. Not coincidence, spiritual mechanics. 4 specific transformations occur exclusively in solitude. 4 alchemical processes that accelerate awakening when you stop fighting them. The first transformation, loneliness dissolves false identity. When surrounded by others, your sense of self receives continuous reinforcement through roles and relationships. Father, friend, employee. These social identities form a protective shell around what ancient traditions call your essential nature. Ramana Maharshi demonstrated this perfectly. At 16, fear of death prompted him to investigate who dies. Alone with this inquiry at Arunachala mountain, his social identity dissolved completely. What remained? Pure awareness, consciousness without identification with body, thoughts, or personal history. Close your eyes for 10 seconds right now. Notice what observes your thoughts. That witnessing presence that remains when loneliness burns away your social mask. When alone, your mind panics, spinning stories about being unwanted or unlovable. These narratives emerge because your social self, dependent on external validation, experiences isolation as a threat to existence. Yet beneath these stories lies something unshakable, awareness that witnesses loneliness without being defined by it. But relationships give my life meaning. Do they? Or do they merely provide a convenient distraction from the existential questions loneliness would force you to confront? How many of your relationships exist primarily to validate the story you tell about yourself? The second transformation, loneliness breaks the illusion of separation. What appears as isolation actually represents a belief in a fundamental misconception about reality. Your loneliness hurts because you experience the painful results of perceiving yourself as separate from existence. Saint Anthony retreated to the Egyptian desert for 20 years. In that vast emptiness, the boundaries between self and universe dissolved. He emerged with paradoxical teaching. I saw the snares that the enemy spreads out over the world, and I said, groaning, what can get through from such snares? Then I heard a voice saying to me, humility. His isolation revealed not separateness but intense connection. Modern quantum physics validates what mystics taught for millennia. Everything connects to everything else. Particles, once connected, remain linked regardless of distance, instantaneously affecting each other across space-time. Your consciousness operates by identical principles. Place your hand over your heart. Feel your heartbeat. This same life force pulses through every living being on this planet. The flower of life streams through Earth as through your human form, connecting all existence through identical energy. If these words resonate with something deeper than your thinking mind, subscribe now. Your subscription supports these teachings while helping us reach others ready for transformation. Now for something even more powerful. The third transformation, loneliness ignites your inner fire. Most people live with spiritual energy dormant, functioning at minimal capacity because the life force disperses through constant external engagement. They remain energetic consumers rather than generators, dependent on outside sources for vitality. Milarepa spent 9 years in Himalayan caves, developing the capacity to generate inner heat so powerful he survived winter blizzards, wearing only cotton cloth. This physiological miracle demonstrates what happens when isolated consciousness redirects energy inward rather than dispersing through constant external engagement. 3 channels carry life force through your body: Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. During ordinary social engagement, energy flows predominantly through Ida and Pingala, dualistic channels governing external reality. During conscious solitude, energy naturally concentrates in Sushumna, central channel where awakening occurs. But this sounds like spiritual fantasy, and quantum entanglement once seemed fantasy too. Have you never experienced a surge of creativity, clarity, or insight during periods of solitude? These represent the initial stages of energy activation. The full expression of this power awaits those brave enough to face emptiness directly. Ever notice how society mocks solitude? Dating apps promise to solve your singleness. Social media quantifies worth through connection metrics. Entire industries profit from your fear of being alone. Meanwhile, throughout history, those who transformed consciousness most dramatically willingly stepped away from constant social engagement. Amusing contradiction, no? If you've experienced moments where solitude led to unexpected insight, creativity, or clarity, comment below with what emerged when external noise disappeared. The fourth transformation, loneliness creates space for rebirth. Consider a seed before sprouting requires burial in darkness, surrounded by emptiness. Your consciousness follows an identical pattern. The emptiness accompanying loneliness creates perfect conditions for new growth otherwise impossible in crowded awareness. Ramana Maharshi walked away from conventional life, spending years in silence. Saint Anthony entered the desert confused and emerged as a spiritual father to generations. Milarepa entered caves as a murderer and emerged as an enlightened master. Their willingness to face emptiness directly enabled complete transformation, not modification, not improvement. Total rebirth of consciousness from empty space loneliness creates. But what guarantees something valuable will emerge from my emptiness? Nothing guarantees an outcome. Transformation involves risk. The caterpillar likely experiences dissolution in chrysalis as death rather than transformation. Your resistance comes from the same misunderstanding. Wait, am I suggesting everyone should become a hermit? No, temporary rather than permanent isolation catalyzes these transformations. Modern practice might involve weekend retreats, daily meditation, or occasional solitary walks in nature. Duration matters less than the quality of engagement with the emptiness these periods create. But yes, duration does matter a lot too. Modern psychology views chronic loneliness as harmful, and they have a point. Context matters enormously. Chronic involuntary isolation differs fundamentally from conscious solitude, embraced for transformation. One depletes, one transforms. One happens to you, one happens through you. I must challenge my own teaching here. Does loneliness always serve to awaken? No. Sometimes isolation reinforces neurotic patterns rather than dissolving them. This happens when you use solitude to rehearse grievances, nurture resentments, or amplify self-pity. Productive solitude requires witnessing consciousness, observing mental patterns rather than becoming them. Without this capacity, loneliness becomes a prison rather than a portal. How comical. We spend thousands on retreats attempting to artificially create what loneliness gives freely. We pay experts to guide us into states that solitude delivers naturally. We travel to exotic locations seeking transformation available in our own empty bedroom. The cosmic joke, what we pay to attain comes free in what we pay to avoid. Your evolution follows cyclical patterns of death and rebirth rather than linear progress. Loneliness represents the death phase, necessary emptying before renewal. Most people waste this opportunity by numbing discomfort with distraction or escaping through relationships. They miss the precious opportunity loneliness provides for fundamental transformation. The temporary pain of authentic loneliness leads to permanent freedom from suffering created by false connections. This exchange, temporary discomfort for lasting freedom, represents the most worthwhile transaction available to human consciousness. Your loneliness contains a seed of something trying to birth through you. Without emptiness, no space exists for new manifestation. Your loneliness creates a necessary void from which the next expression of your evolving consciousness can emerge. The silence you fear contains everything you seek. The emptiness you avoid holds everything you need. Stop running. Turn around. Face directly what you have been fleeing. Discover treasure hidden within what appeared as a loss. Truth awaits not in words, but in your direct experience of what emerges when you stop running from yourself.